Coming to you from the award-winning Final Third Cigar and Whiskey Lounge, PCA's 2024 Best of Leaf Midwest Cigar Bar, Indiana's exclusive Aladino Cigar Lounge, it's the Final Third Podcast.
Welcome back to the Final Third Podcast. I'm Rob.
And I'm Scott, and we have a special guest with us today. This is Mo Deshong, and Mo is my dad.
Yeah, and happy Father's Day.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on with us. This is going to be a fun day. I know it's going to be odd, but we're going to drink and smoke cigars.
Is that what we do on this show?
Sometimes, yeah.
I think so. And actually, Dad, you don't really drink much or smoke much.
Not very much.
Yeah, so this ought to be kind of fun because it's going to be kind of like having a somewhat newbie on the show.
The first thing you did when I came in, knowing I don't drink much and don't smoke much, was set me up with liquor and a cigar.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's move the microphone a little closer.
Yeah,
so
get
it's
you just a little bit more. Okay. We'll figure it out.
This will twist down a little bit further for you.
There you go.
That'll help.
Yep. All the fun technical stuff that we have to do here to make the Final Third Podcast work. So, Rob, what are we smoking today, I guess, first?
All right. So Scott did share with his dad a cigar that he smokes on a daily. He talks about this all the time. This is his morning cigar. It's the Metropolitan Host. It's got a
My dad actually kind of, poked a little fun. He was like, I called it the breakfast cigar for me. And he's like, breakfast cigar? I've not heard of that term before.
Yeah. Well, so it's got a slight sweet cap. It's a nice mild cigar, but he is drinking the Grand Marnier.
Grand Marnier.
Grand Marnier. Thank you. He's drinking that. Actually, it might go really well together. That orange and cream might be really nice.
I think it's going to be great. So, you're going to have a little bit of a molasses tip on it as well. That'll be some extra sweetness there. And you don't have to puff a lot because this Metropolitan Host has a very, very thick, rich smoke, which is nice. It's not a full bodied, right? So the flavors are kind of tampered, and you're not going to get like a ton of the tobacco, a lot of the nicotine hit from it. So that's why I like it with coffee in the morning.
Yeah. And Scott and I are going to smoke. We're going to go big for Father's Day for us today. We're going to smoke the 1964 Family Reserve, the 45 year.
I'm excited about this.
I love this cigar.
It's a great cigar.
The Family Reserves for me do kind of what the 26 and the 64 do individually, both together.
Okay,
so it's kind of like a blend of both. A little stronger than the 64, not quite as strong as the 26, but does both the spice and the chocolate.
I like it. So, Dad, one of the things we do if you want to pick up your cigar, we do what's called the cold draw. And I know your palate is a little bit more like our friend Chris Gordon. It's good. That's what he says. He's not a guy that picks out all these flavors, right? And, you know me and how bougie I am. I pick out all the flavors.
Well, let me ask a question real quick.
Yeah.
So they actually age cigars the same way they do whiskey?
Similar.
Very similar.
You said that was in 1964 or something?
Well, that's the year. So they commemorate certain years for their cigars. The tobacco itself probably has a couple of years of age on it, and then they roll them and ship them. But it's actually just commemorating a year. I think 64 it's one of the son's birthdays when he was born.
Yeah, it's a marketing.
26.
Well, you can do worse than having a cigar to commemorate your
exactly
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think 26 is Jose, and then I think George is the 64. So, and I think they've got some plans for the younger kids coming up too.
Now that actually brings up a really good point. Do they ever put age statements on cigars?
Only if it's something special.
Okay.
Kind of like the XO from 1502. It says 18-year age tobacco on it.
Oh, Okay, which means it'll be a minimum of 18
Minimum
years.
18, because once it's rolled 18, it might be sitting in the humidor for 2 years. Now you're 20 years, and
How in the hell have we had this show this long? I've been on here, and I've never thought to ask that question. My dad's on for 2 minutes, and he's like, "Hey, do you age cigars like that?" It was a great question.
The one nice thing that's different than liquor is, once you put liquor in a bottle, it stops aging. With cigars, they just keep aging. As long as you keep them humidified properly and the right temperature, they'll keep aging indefinitely. And at some point, you lose some of the flavor, some of the complexity, because it just goes beyond what the tobacco can do. But in most cases, up to 12, 18, even 20 years, you can continue to grow the way the tobacco marries and get the flavors together. So it's kind of a nice thing to try at home too.
Not that all of us notice the difference in flavors, but
you might say that this one's better than that one.
Yep.
So with the cold draw, all we're trying to do is just kind of pull, just air through the cigar, and then just see if we taste anything particular. Yeah. Lots of times it can be earthy. It might be sweet. You're definitely going to taste on your lips a little bit the sweet. So like this has a nice kind of raisin note that I get. It's like
a little barnyard.
Mm-hmm. I always like that raisin note. When I get something that's like a prune or like a raisin, that's really, really good. I think you usually find that with the more fermented tobaccos, the Maduros.
Yeah.
So you said barnyard?
Yeah, it sounds just
so
like
I grew up on a dairy farm.
Yeah.
Barnyard definitely would have a different connotation for me.
It's the same. It's the same connotation.
It's the exact same.
It is.
It's
that.
We went through a sensory experience training with Jackie Zycar, and it was amazing. She was involved in making some of the whiskeys that are behind the bar here, and she said that the best way to do it is not to talk about the specific flavors, but to see if it reminds you of anything. So if you cold draw your cigar and you think, boy, I feel like I'm in the barn with the cows, that's a barnyard flavor.
I see.
So you use the memory instead of trying to pick out the specific flavor. And it really brought a whole new sense of how to do things to us. One, we realized we don't know shit about tasting anything. Because she's a pro, right? So,
and you were really good in that, because when the first thing she did was she's like, stay a memory, and this guy's over here is talking about all the memories of all the things, and I'm like, dang, dude, you really figured this out pretty quickly. I'm over going, vanilla.
I like vanilla.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. And if you shout out a particular flavor, she would start like yelling at you.
Yeah.
Damn near cussing out you, telling you, no, a memory, not a flavor, a memory. And I'd be like, I'm back in California in the redwood forest, and this is like the ferns and undergrowth. Yeah. So, okay, now we're gonna light. Dad, I'll get you my lighter here in just a second.
Okay.
So for lighting this, I know you haven't probably smoked too many premium cigars. About a 45-degree angle. You just don't want the blue flame to touch directly.
I don't know, the ones they hand out that says it's a boy, is that considered a premium cigar?
They can be. It
does depend.
There are some good ones out there. I know Rocky makes one. Perdomo, I believe, makes one. But usually the ones you see are the cheapy gas stations type ones.
The hospital gift room.
Exactly. The ones you probably shouldn't like.
End. Sorry. Other end of your cigar.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, there you go. Beautiful. Yep, you're just going to get it where you see just a little bit of white. That shows that there's just a touch of ash, which is what you want.
We'll save wind.
That's probably good.
Okay.
So now just give it a puff and get the lighter up there on it a little bit. That's it. You're good.
And don't inhale.
Yeah, okay. He knows that much.
I always like to say that because I never know,
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Dad, I think you kind of tried smoking and did like some Swisher Sweets and stuff like that, right? Just some regular.
My grandpa smoked/chewed cigars all the time I knew him. And his truck got smelling like cigars. And when he passed, the next few years, every once in a while, I'd go buy a cigar. I don't think they were premium. They were just $5 for a buck Roy Tans.
Okay.
I don't even think they're made anymore.
I don't think so.
And
I've not seen those around.
Red and white box. And he used to give us these little rings off of them when we were little kids, and we all wore them on our finger until they wore in half, and it was kind of a fight between all of us who got the ring.
Yeah.
And so every once in a while, I would buy a box. I generally smoke the one in the truck so I could get that grandpa smell, and be like his truck. And generally I ended up throwing the other 4 out because they were in there 2 or 3 years before I wanted one again. I just go buy a fresh box when I wanted one.
Yeah.
This is about true. How Memory. Often Dad would smoke and drink. Funny story. My wedding ring was lost for a year. And somebody went out to my dad's barn behind the house to get a beer. And there was a case of Miller Lite. And it was the last one. I think it was Pam, my Aunt Pam. And she grabs the box and hears rattling and looks inside. And it's my wedding ring.
Oh, dang.
From a year ago. In a case of Miller Lite that it took more than a year for it to get drank.
Well, at least with me around, it was safe.
That's true.
Yeah, I didn't throw the box out on you.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Yep. So I know you don't drink and smoke too much, but I'm glad you're here and joining us for Father's Day. So, Rob, tell us about what you and I are drinking here.
Yeah. So this is I fell in love with Garrison Brothers down when I was in Texas a few months ago, and this is the Balmora finish, I think is what they call it. You'll have to look at the bottle. I can't remember what the proof is on it. But this stuff, this whiskey from Texas, I mean, you look at this, it almost looks like cola. It's so dark. With their wide temperature change that they have and this super, super heat they get down there, it just really pulls more of the flavor, more of the color out of the barrels and just makes it so much darker and richer. So that's one of the reasons I love Garrison Brothers, but this is a really nice finish. So I like this a lot.
Yeah, it's got a really, really aggressive nose on it. Like it's actually even on the palate. It does. It comes at you.
It's very oaky, but it's not that tannic thing we got from C923.
Right. Which is nice. So tannic means like a sandpaper tongue, like when you drink a Burgundy wine.
Yeah, that drying effect.
Yeah, that real heavy.
This one has a little bit of the drying effect, but not in a bad way.
Yep.
It's kind of like a really good cab, just going to get you a little drying, but it's part of the experience.
Now, the cigar actually pairs really, really well with it. I had some tasting notes and they just escaped my head.
I get with the combo, I get a molasses, kind of a, gosh, what's that? I know what you're saying. It's like,
sorghum?
Well, I mean, it's like a molasses, but it's almost like a combination of molasses and the marzipan. That kind of candied almond thing going.
Yep, absolutely. And then, I definitely get some nice high fruit notes out of it. So it's some good stuff.
Yeah,
it does go well with the cigar.
And definitely with the cigar, you're getting more of that marzipan.
I'm curious about this combination.
Yeah.
So have you taken a drink of your Grand Marnier yet?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I noticed the cigar actually does have a flavor to it.
Yeah.
I would never have paid any attention. It was just always smoked before.
Okay.
Yeah. It just smelled like Grandpa's truck. So it does have a flavor, but I don't really have anything to compare it to. So
no, that's okay. Yeah, but that's great that you actually get flavor off of it. So
you guys called it creamy a little bit ago, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's maybe a little bit. Actually.
Yeah. So
which is surprising.
I drink stout beer and they have milk stouts. And it's basically like the sweet cream that comes out. And to me, that cigar has a little bit of the smoke is so rich and thick and creamy, it almost has like that milk sweetness, which, I mean, obviously you grew up on a dairy farm. So I remember you saying, didn't you used to go where the milk all collected and just like dunk a glass in there?
Oh, yeah. We had a 300-gallon refrigerated tank.
Oh, yeah.
And it had a big paddle in it, and you could turn that on high, and it would just mix the milk up almost to a froth.
Oh, wow.
And we would, of course, being little kids, we'd grab a glass and dip down into the big tank of frothy, like 36-degree milk.
Oh, wow.
And might not be the most sanitary.
Hey.
I mean, these days, milk is the only food that is never touched by human hands before it hits your refrigerator.
Oh, wow.
Back in those days, probably a few more kids around like me, I suspect.
Now, would this be before it was pasteurized?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this was, raw cow.
Until I was like, till we got rid of the dairy herd, I was probably 12 or 13. I never had pasteurized milk. Well, I did a little bit because Mom actually bought a pasteurizer thinking it would be better for us. And it lasted for a little bit, then went on the shelf. We never used it again.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was all about.
It's kind of like everybody that has a juucer at home.
Right.
Man, this is a great idea. I'm going to do it every day until you clean it the first time. You're like, God, that was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of garage stuff, garage sale stuff sitting in people's kitchens.
Beer equipment.
Oh,
we both have
Rob
beer
and I both
equipment.
have lots of beer equipment right now.
So, yeah.
Fire sale.
Just as soon not go there. Would you?
Well, no. It's,
By the way, if you guys are, if anyone out there is into homebrewing or wants to get into homebrewing, one of us can hook you up because we're getting rid of our stuff. So,
Or even if you just need a really nice stainless steel, whatever.
Yeah,
they probably got it.
Yep.
yeah,
I did sell my my conical fermenter. Someone bought that for me or from me, which I wish I'd have kept it with the whole set because it was the whole set. But now I still have the fermenters, but they're more the big bubblers.
Gotcha. Yeah, the buckets.
Yeah.
Or the,
it's the big
glass
big
ones.
It's actually the plastic one, but it's the big bubbler with the big head on it.
Oh yeah.
So you can do an 8-gallon on it.
You need lighter?
My cigar went out.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's okay. That
happens to us when we start talking all the time.
Yep, we get talking, and you just give it a few puffs, and you'll be all right.
But no, this Balmora, I really love this. I'm pretty sensitive to oak usually, but the oak in this one is almost like a candied oak. It's just so sweet, and I like the flavor of this oak a lot more than I do on some of them. Even like the Elijah Craig 18. I like that because they did proof it down, so it kind of went beyond the old oak in it a little bit.
Yep.
But I would like to see the flavor that they got out of it at a little higher proof. But I know that they're balancing act right there to get that release, so it makes sense.
Yeah, and it's interesting. When I went back to it, you said candied, and that made me think of like candied nuts, and
that's that marzipan I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it kind of got like almost like that the walnut.
Yeah,
has that drying effect.
Yeah,
right. It's not that tannic dry wine. It's just the more nuts. You eat a bunch of walnuts, and it's like kind of makes your mouth feel like they're full of marbles.
Yeah. That's kind of, and I think you're right. I think it's like marzipan, but the candy on a walnut, not candy on an almond.
Yes.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
And we're just literally splitting hairs here, but it's fine. It's fine. That's what we do here.
I really doubt if Grandpa ever talked about any of this stuff.
No, I don't think he did. No, actually, so I remember obviously being Dad's grandpa was my great grandfather, and our family we just all get married and have babies young. So most of the time, there's like 5 or 6 generations alive in my family at any one time. There's, if you come to Pendleton, there's a lot of us.
I tell people all the time, if you hit a golf ball, you're probably going to hit a Deshong at some point.
Yeah, my phrase was, marry young and breed like rabbits. Yeah, that's us.
Yeah,
well, it worked.
It worked. So I remember going often over to my great-grandparents' house. I think Grandpa died first, but probably when I was 14 or 15. And then Grandma didn't die till I think I was 17. It was pretty surprising. It was my great-grandparents, right?
Wow.
But I do remember Grandpa sitting in his chair, and he had this ashtray, and I could probably find one, you'd look on eBay or something, but it was a big green stone ashtray.
Some kind of medallion.
Yeah, there was like a bronze
right.
copper medallion in the middle of it. And I just will never, ever forget that. And he would always keep a little, box of wood matches, just the small one.
Do you know where that ashtray is?
No.
That would be something fun to have forever.
I would love it.
You never think about it. It was probably, Myers 5 and dime
probably
ashtray or something
probably.
like that.
And, but it would cost you $150 now to buy it.
Yeah, it would. and you would give $150 for it right now if you could find that ashtray.
Yeah, I definitely would. It wouldn't even... Yeah, I wouldn't think about it for a second.
Well, I remember a couple of years ago, maybe more like 4 or 5 years ago, Larry down here at Maduro on Main, somebody had came to him and had a bunch of antique ashtrays to stand up, full stands, and they need to be refinished and all that. And he posted them out on Facebook, and I was looking at these things. I'm like, these things are amazing. These old, cheap metal ashtrays that probably cost a couple bucks back in the day, and people are bidding them up to $500-600 to buy them to go refinish them. I'm like, but he had a bunch of those. I'd like to. I reached out to him, and he'd already sold them at the time, but I wanted to get one of those just to have. Be fun to put one in the corner here, just as an old old ashtray.
That would be very cool. I'm sure there's a lot of those good old ashtrays back.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, cigar smoking used to be a really significant thing. Then cigarettes came along, kind of overtook the market, and everybody got in a big hurry. And now people stop to take time and smoke a cigar, and it's just a different, you know, way to get to a relaxing point where you share with your friends and family. And it's been fun to watch kind of this resurgence in cigar smoking.
Yeah.
And it becoming, you know, more socially acceptable and not have the negative connotations that lots of other tobacco products have. People recognize it for what it is.
Right.
Maybe Roy Tan will even come back.
You know, I don't think we've seen too many of the old cigar brands come back yet, but it certainly has happened in bourbon, so you never know.
That was back in the Dutch Master days.
Yeah.
Dutch Master was a big one back in that day. Because I remember my grandpa had the Dutch Master boxes. So,
That's cool.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't know you had a history of cigar smoking as well.
I didn't think about it. I mean, I literally saw the cigar boxes he would have. You know, he would give them to us kids to throw our crayons and stuff in. So
Knickknacks and whatever.
I got on the internet and looked for Roy Tan, and had the cardboard boxes. I think there's probably some in here.
Yeah,
and they're actually collector items now.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, wow, the red and white box is now a collector box for cigars.
Yep,
man,
it's amazing.
Yeah, there's a big collector market. I mean, if you were in the humidor a little while ago, I mean, a lot of those boxes are works of art, you know.
Yes, they are.
And they really put a lot of effort to make these things look special. And obviously, they're trying to make them stand out on the shelf. The box helps that. But, you know, I hate throwing them away. I don't throw them away. I literally give them away. I throw them out here on the table so people can grab them and take them home because, you know what? Take them home and repurpose them for something better.
I hope they keep making fancy boxes.
Yeah.
I managed to get Janelle, my wife, to let me buy a box of cigars because the box was so fancy. It looked like a big bomb. It was the Warhead 10. And it was like this gigantic box that took up way too much space on the shelf.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was ridiculous to have it in
10
a
cigars,
cigar lounge.
the box was this long.
Oh, yeah. It was like 18, 20 inches.
Yeah.
And it was super cool. And I'm like, hey, I really want, you know, a box of these cigars. And she's like, that box is awesome. Buy them. Okay. All right. I mean, they're.
Should I get two?
I was like, what were they, like 16, 18 bucks a cigar or something like that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was $160, $180 box for 10 cigars. Yeah, but she liked the box. So keep making cool boxes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know the new Las Seis Provincia is going to be kind of a cool box, but it's going to be for Espinosa. It's going to be hard to display. You're going to have it on the card again because each cigar is standing up vertically in the box. Pretty cool looking, but it's not real conducive to retail.
Right. Yeah. And speaking of new cigars coming in, when's the new Aladino coming in, Rob?
I've heard that it's supposed to be landing in Miami if it hasn't already the first of the week, and then they'll be shipping pretty quickly. So hopefully the next week, maybe by the time the next week's episode drops, we'll have it.
This has been the cigar teaser of the year from Final Third. It's all the time I'm seeing stuff on Facebook, you know, coming soon. And I'm like, when soon? Because it's been about 6 months and we're all waiting. We're excited about it.
So do these companies put out press releases when they are going to have new cigars?
Sometimes. Yeah, a lot of them do. Yeah. There's a few people in cigar media that will go out there and report on it. And then people like us that just decide to talk about it because we like it.
So there's a magazine for cigar smokers, I'm sure.
There is. Yeah, Cigar Aficionado. Honestly, the best magazine right now for cigars, and this is actually good content for people that maybe don't know, is Cigar Journal. They actually have really good articles, good reporting, you know, reviews, all that stuff. Where Cigar Aficionado used to be the one to go to, but it's become more of a lifestyle magazine, which is nothing wrong with that.
Playboy,
it is,
except cigars.
Yeah,
you know, everybody knows you buy it for the naked ladies, but they think it's all about, you know,
the articles.
Yeah. You know, how to get like in the old days, how to have a proper quadraphonic setup, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's why I have Playboy. It has nothing to do with all the naked ladies in there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Cigar Aficionado's kind of turned into that.
Well, it's a nice magazine to have on the tables here for people to kind of look through because it's a quick little, you can look through it. You can find an article you like, or you can look through the lifestyle portion where they're showing the $27,000 watch you can look at, or the $150,000 this and stuff. They'll show that stuff in there, but it's honestly it's not as much of a cigar magazine as it used to be.
Yeah.
Marcy and I are always amazed at the subcultures.
Yeah.
And, you know, cigar smoking seems to be another subculture.
It is very
Certain
much.
People just kind of come to that. You know, it's just always amazing what it's got a magazine. It's a legitimate subculture.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a great call. You know, I remember you talked about one of the things that you always thought would be fun would be to go to small towns all across the country and go to their version of the diner. So
Yeah.
here in Pendleton, we've got the diner, or have the round table.
Yeah.
Right?
We thought, you know, every town has a round table. I was in
Yep.
Columbus and went into a diner, and there's a round table and all these old guys with a few young guys sprinkled in.
Yeah.
And I thought a book, we'd just travel around and sit at the round tables for a week, and we'd name the book Knights of the Round Table. And
That would be awesome, actually.
That would be, yeah.
It'd be more travel than I'm willing to put in, but
Yeah.
you're right. It would be awesome. Somebody that really liked me on the road and really,
So there's a book
was good
idea.
writer.
That is a great
Yeah,
idea.
if somebody wants to do the work, we'd all buy it.
If you're planning on doing that, we can cut this out so someone else didn't steal your idea, because that's a great idea.
Well, it'd make a great book too.
It
I mean,
would.
I've read some of those, you know, Travels with Charlie and some of those other books, and
Yeah.
you got a good author.
Yeah.
It could be a great book.
Well, I would say here, this is probably typically our round table.
Yeah.
But there's the occasional, depending on who's here, where that becomes the round table, or the center
couch
section
area.
becomes the
Yeah.
round table. It just depends on who's here and what's going on. You know, if there's a hockey game on, a lot of times we might be down by the couch and you know, gathering down there. If Chris and Will get here before anybody else is here, it's right there.
Yeah, the 4 chairs over
If
there.
it's us, and we're sitting usually right here. So
Thank you to sponsor Deadwood Live. Derek with Deadwood Live is producing top quality live edge products as well as bourbon themed furniture. If you've been in the lounge, you've seen the custom live edge table and barrel stools produced by Derek. Be sure to give him a like and follow on Facebook at Deadwood Live. That's DED Wood Live. And it's interesting the groups that you get to come in here because, you know, I know we haven't talked about it because I don't talk with you much about the cigar stuff because you don't smoke, you know, much. And so it just never come up in conversation. But this is a very social event, like being at the round table.
Sure.
And you get a lot of the same kinds of people that would go to a round table that come in here. It's just, you know, a gathering place and a place where community and culture is built.
yeah,
And it's amazing the number of conversations that happen from nothing more than just checking on each other. How's your family doing? How are you doing? How's life been treating you? To business discussions or politics or decisions being made. And they all happen at a cigar lounge.
yeah,
And it's a very common thread. And you're seeing a lot of lounges come up now in states where the laws aren't so restrictive that you can't have them. You're seeing more and more lounges. Indiana now, I don't even know how many lounges. Are we over a dozen lounges?
oh, at least, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
and that's
Fort Wayne has Rudy's, and
Rudy,
I know there's
yep.
a couple up in South Bend. I know Northwest Indiana has like 3 or 4.
Greater Indianapolis has several.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
down south, I know.
Jeffersonville, because you can't smoke in Louisville.
Yeah,
So Jeffersonville, and then the Indiana side, is where they have the cigar lounge.
Which is amazing because Kentucky's a tobacco state.
I know. Isn't that
Tobacco
Isn't
and
that-
whiskey,
isn't that
right?
weird?
Tobacco
Yeah.
and bourbon. You can't have a
Yeah.
lounge.
Inside, yep.
Yeah, I guess that one's Louisville, not the state, right? That's the city of Louisville because there's the
think so.
executive lounge outside of Louisville by 20
You
miles.
can there.
Well,
And
I
you can get
know
there.
there's some backwoods places still in Kentucky, and you can do anything you want to do there.
There might be a still set
and
up
they did.
somewhere.
That's right. There
Yes.
might be.
Yep. Well, speaking of a couple of lounges, that's a great way to introduce this. So we had a couple guys here from the Office Cigar Lounge, which is down in southern Indiana. It's actually I can't remember what the actual town is that they're in, but it's really, I mean, just on this side of Louisville, I believe. They just moved. They're building a new space, and they're getting a large space. It's an old house, and they're remodeling it, doing the outdoor space and all that now. They're going to be opening that here in the next few weeks. So we'll definitely keep people updated on that. If you travel for work or if you live in southern Indiana, that'll be a great place to go. They have a lot of Aladino just like we do. They are really expanding their humidor, having a bigger space. They're going to have a members only area, lockers, all kinds of stuff there. So that's going to be a great one to see. And then there's a new one being built in Westfield, the boys from Cigar Box, Michael and Caesar were here.
Oh yeah,
talking
I
to
remember
me.
hearing about that.
And
That's exciting.
they're opening up another cigar box, but it's going to be a cigar bar. So they're going to actually have the full bar set up, just kind of like us. And they were here talking to us about some things, asking some questions. And I mean, honestly, we were just dreaming together. And I kept telling them, like, well, you beat me to the punch, because Westfield is the next best place to have a lounge right now.
Yeah.
I think it's going to do very, very well. So that one's coming up. They're shooting for January 1 to be open. So they're getting ready to take possession of the building, getting their liquor license, all that stuff right now. So be on the lookout there. It's right around Grand Park. So
my goodness, they're going to get crushed.
They're not going to have any problem having business there. So
no, all the people traveling into town for all the sports, and
I told them, I said, I think the biggest problem they're going to have is parking.
Yeah,
because they don't have a lot of parking. It's
well, hopefully they're able to figure that out as they go along, and obviously
they'll find a way.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, it's a lot easier to smoke in areas in Indiana. Like a lot of hotels have nice outdoor spaces, so you think like all these people coming in with their kids for travel sports. At the very least, there's a place they can go, have a cigar and a drink, buy a few to go back to the hotel for late night.
Yeah,
because I know I've been in those hotels when those travel teams come in. Sometimes I think the travel sports is as much for the parents as it is for the kids.
Yeah,
I don't know who it's for, but
it has
to
be
big, huge business.
It really is.
It's a business.
It is.
It's not sports. It's business.
It absolutely is.
But I mean, you're right. It's kind of like the cigar lounge. You know, when the parents get the kids off to bed, it's like, oh, let's just all go down by the pool or out on the deck and just have a cigar, or just sit out and have a drink or talk. You know.
Yep.
Parents get together, and that becomes their round table.
So. Oh, you can always find a couple cases of beer out there, and they're having a good old time. So it's speaking of business, however, you got a special award here, the Madison County Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
And you guys got awarded the business of the month
for June. Yeah,
for Madison County.
For Madison County.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
And it was kind of cool because the day after they nominated us for that, or they came out. Gave us the award, they actually got nominated as the Chamber of Commerce for Indiana of the
that's
of the
right.
month.
They did.
So they won that.
Was that
maybe
they won it? I think they won it of the year. It's
the
Chamber of Commerce. Yeah, the Indiana Chamber of Commerce of the year was Madison County.
And they're crushing
it.
Those guys are doing a lot of work in Madison County, really trying to do the right thing as a chamber. You know, there's very few chambers around that I hear much about anymore, and they're actually out there doing it. They're in here all the time. They're in everywhere, and we're the furthest southwest corner of Madison County.
Yeah, I mean,
and they're coming to hang out with us.
Yeah,
you know, they have to go all the way up to Elwood and Alexandria and all that, and then all the way down through Anderson, Marco Building over here. So they really have a pretty large area to go, but they're out everywhere, doing a great job. So
now, is Mom still involved in any of the stuff going on over there, or is she just a member?
Well, as you know, she was president of the chamber,
right?
Madison County Chamber several years ago.
Okay, I didn't realize that for some reason. I guess you told me that before.
And now she's involved with the Pendleton Chamber. Not real big, because she's got really involved with the Builders Association, and she's going to be president of the Builders Association, the state association, in 26.
Oh, good. Good.
So she's more industry focused right now.
Well, that makes sense.
And
with
she
what
loves
you guys
that
are
kind
doing.
of stuff. So you know, and she loved the chamber, and she loves working in the Pendleton Chamber, and so she's certainly been involved in that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so one thing that we really like to do here is we definitely support local business, small business, local business.
Anywhere.
So I know you
not
guys,
just Indiana, but everywhere.
Everywhere, but we really like to focus on our small business local here. So I know you guys are involved with several small businesses. What are some of the ones you're active in right now that you would like to promote to people around here?
Well, we have Midwest Remodeling,
right?
Which I think we're like 25 years old.
Which remodeling is kind of almost a dumbed down term for what you guys do, because you guys actually build homes and everything, right?
Yeah, we do build a few new homes.
Okay.
We don't do custom builds, but we build spec houses. And it's kind of, in fact, a lot of builders are doing this now. They have a waiting list of people that want to buy one of their houses, and they build a house and say, here it is, if you want it.
Yeah.
This one's yours. And they don't go through all this customization of everything. I mean, you can just imagine if you walk through your house, the number of things that are there to select from a buyer's point of view.
Right.
Wow, what a hard job for a builder.
65,000 doorknobs, just so you know.
Wow.
I know, because they built my custom home, and yeah, it took a long time for us to pick it all.
So,
Wow.
Which is probably why they don't do custom.
So we do the same thing. We build it. We do all the selections. We make it, very appealing to a great number of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if you want this one, that's fine.
Yeah.
And it works out really well for us and the customer.
Right.
Because it's not nearly so stressful on the customer.
Yeah.
To have to do all those selections.
But you're also doing bathroom, kitchen, whatever remodels throughout. And that's probably one of your biggest things,
quite
right?
a few kitchens right now.
Okay.
We do room additions. We've done second story additions.
Okay.
Taking a single story house and make it 2 stories.
Okay.
And then we have Bronze Bay Tanning, which is also one of our companies.
Yeah. Okay.
And we've got 5 different locations within a 30-mile radius or so.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal.
Yep. Greenfield, Shelbyville, McCordsville, Pendleton, Newcastle.
Newcastle.
I
Okay.
was trying to remember there was one more out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
my daughter actually, Adele, works for Bronze Bay Tanning. So,
Oh, there you go. She in Greenfield?
She's
Yes,
Greenfield and
she
does
is.
Pendleton some.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
just entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And we've tried stuff and failed too. So we don't talk about those. We talk about the ones that are currently going.
Well, and some of them are like weird short-term successes. Like when they first started, so the bathroom remodeling company, I love this story. My mom, she was like any of the rest of us Deshongs, ready to get married, ready to have a family. And
young.
Yeah.
Because Dad, I think you were 23.
I was 21.
Oh, you were 21?
She was 17.
There you go.
Okay.
17.
Barely.
Yeah.
Barely.
Like
1 week, 17.
1 week. And they got married.
But we made it to 17.
I was saying, how long have you been married?
48 years,
Oh,
I believe.
48.
Congratulations.
Wow.
That's
Thank you.
awesome.
So obviously Mom, is spending all the time being a stay-at-home mom while Dad is running a building company, Deshong Builders at the time. And after, us kids, different time, right? Probably I might have been 8 or something, and she went back to school. She went to college, and she thought she wanted to be an architect. So let's see here. I was 8. My youngest sister was 5. And, at the time it was like, hey, watch your sisters. Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
But Mom was going to classes while we were, in school. I think it was when Beth finally got into first grade that she went.
Yeah.
And she got through a couple years of architecture school and then decided to change into engineering because architecture was a little too much art, not quite enough math. She ended up not finishing because she started a bathroom remodeling company. They came up with some, this was when the tub liners, being able to put over a cast iron, being able to take the acrylic.
I had a customer give me a 1-sheet slick that showed the bathtub liner. And she says, well, this is what I really wanted because I was trying to spray tubs at the time. The economy was really pretty bad.
Yeah.
At times. And I gave it to her and she looked at it, thought, I think I'd like to do this.
So Dad has a big, office space off the back of the house and had, kind of the big meeting table to be able to do all the builder stuff and meetings and like 2 or 3 computers. And he built one tiny little desk, which was really just a 4-foot countertop. And that
right
was
behind the door, so she had to move.
Right, every time somebody's coming in and out. And that was it. That was the start of Midwest luxury baths, later to become Midwest remodeling. And Dad, after having a successful career in building homes and ended up having, after some challenges in 87 to 89 economic situations, ends up starting a company and becoming part of Hallmark Homes. And then eventually sold out of Hallmark Homes, and of course that is a big Indiana builder now.
Yeah. And now they've sold the company.
I didn't even know that.
They sold it
because I knew Derek real well.
3 or 4 years ago they sold out.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
No,
forget the guy that that's running for governor.
Oh, really? Yeah. For goodness sake!
I can't
I
believe
think
it
it
either.
starts with a B.
Okay.
So,
okay.
But I think his family was involved in that purchase.
Okay. I didn't realize that
then
Derek sold it.
I came in with Marcy, and when we first started, there were 2 bathroom remodeling companies in Indianapolis Yellow Pages.
Okay.
We finally decided to do all remodeling. I think there was 125. So
Wow.
obviously that pie was really getting chopped into a lot of pieces. And
yeah.
so
Unless you're listed as AAA bath remodeling, you're not going to get called.
That's
probably.
right.
Yeah.
Maybe even had to
Midwest
go to 5
is
a.m.
down
in
there.
order to get
Exactly.
there.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely become a family business. One of the things I liked early on when you went full remodeling, they were known as the company that would take down walls. So a lot of people go in and do a kitchen or do a bathroom, and it's not really moving much around. But with Dad's, 25, 30 plus years of experience, probably more like 40 years, because you started with great grandpa when you were a boy, right?
Yeah, well, I'm up to 50 years now.
50
Maybe just
years.
a little more.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Dad can walk in and go, oh yeah, that's a load bearing wall. So we're going to need some sort of beam, and it's got to be this big to support the weight. And they go in and they take your 1970s ranch that's all closed off into a bunch of separate rooms, and suddenly you have an open floor plan.
We've done a lot of jobs that other people have said, that can't be done. And we do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
that's good.
He does not, he's not his own boss anymore.
I know. I got 3 women running my life.
I know.
My wife and 2 daughters, and my daughters have really added to the business, but of course they're running my life now.
Well,
so we've switched places somehow. Not sure what happened there, but it kind of caught me by surprise, I guess. I said yes before I knew what it meant.
Sounds like you need to take up cigars and whiskey and sit on the back deck and let them do the work.
I think you're probably right. I've been trying to slow down a little bit, and they're not really letting me do that.
Yeah.
So it's going real well.
That's
and
great.
It's real exciting. It's fun and to watch all the success that they have, and seeing my sisters out there. They do all these social media videos where they're going through homes that they've been working on or finished product and showing off some of the stuff that they can do. And it's fun to see like the community response and just how happy people are. It's your home, and it takes a lot of trust to allow somebody to come in and do something like that. So it's been a lot of fun. I did not follow in the family business in any way, shape, or form, nor do I have any desire. I told them, I said, they were like a few years ago, hey, we're putting our will together. What do you want? And I said, nothing with business. Nothing. I don't want anything. Just don't leave me any business for sure.
Now, if you buy a home down in Orange Beach, he's probably going to take that from you.
That's true. Yes. That one I would take.
Well, I have no interest in Orange Beach. Pendleton's just fine for me.
That's very, very true. So good stuff. Definitely always promote the local businesses.
Absolutely.
Support your local businesses as well. That's important with the new cigar lounges coming in.
Yeah.
Definitely go visit those guys. We always visit them and talk about them when we go and travel. And I will say Jefferson City, Missouri, get your shit together. Okay. Really. No smoking anywhere inside. And Jefferson City's in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, geez.
But it's the capital of Missouri. So I have to go there for work. And I took like 6 cigars with me in my Claro case. So you can see it down there, down front. You can get that here at Final Third. And I did not get the chance to smoke not one single cigar.
Wow.
It was brutal.
So it's a cigar lounge and you can't smoke inside?
No, there's not even a cigar lounge.
Oh.
Like there's nothing. There's a couple cigar shops, but they don't even, you can't
outside
smoke
of your
inside
hotel or anything?
That was the thing is where I was at. There was, first of all, also your parks have no benches.
What?
I couldn't even go to a park and find a bench.
Wow.
Like, this is the weirdest town I've ever been in. It's, well, you've been to Frankfort, Kentucky before because you've been down there to Buffalo Trace and
I've never been to Buffalo Trace, but I've been through Frankfurt.
okay, so if
Not yet.
you've ever gone to Frankfurt, there's nothing in Frankfurt. It's nothing, but I'm pretty sure that they got benches in their parks.
But isn't that the capital?
It is the capital.
That's what I thought.
It's tiny. Yeah, there's nothing. There's a Capitol Hotel, which is terrible, and a Holiday Inn Express, and like a Chinese food place and a pizza place.
But at least you can be smarter. You stay in the
Right, the Holiday Inn Express.
Yeah.
I stayed at the Holiday Inn Express.
Yep. Well, that's one thing we're talking about. Today's Father's Day. My dad, if he was around, he would be in here all the time. He would be the one creating culture, not what we're trying to do here. Shout out to my dad. Happy Father's Day to you. He's a firefighter for, as long as I can remember when I was a little kid till right before he died. He worked at the factories and all that. So he had the hard work, but he also enjoyed life. And I guarantee he'd been in here smoking cigars and drinking bourbon with us pretty much every day too. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So hopefully you guys are out at this time, hopefully you guys had a great time hanging out with your father on Father's Day. Cause like we were joking with Lisa, Mother's Day came around. Lisa's like, we're shutting down because we're going to have Mother's Day and we're not going to be working. But, Father's Day,
We're working.
We're working. And if you're not working, you're at home cooking for the family on your day. It's
Right.
like, come on.
Yeah, Father's Day is a little bit different.
Give us a day.
I told Janelle, I said, I want to go record the podcast and hang out a little bit. And then I'll probably end my day over at Buffalo Wild Wings, sitting at the bar, having a couple beers and watching the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't need to be around everybody. I'm around everybody all the time.
Yeah.
So I'll be fine with that. That'd work out really great. Final Third Cigar is Indiana's exclusive Aladino Cigar Lounge. Come to Final Third for a selection of over 20 different Aladino cigars, including the Cameroon, a wonderful cigar with nice light flavors. Make sure and visit Final Third, the Aladino exclusive cigar lounge for Indiana.
Yeah, and I think dads are a little bit more lenient on that. It's like, moms, you got to spend time with mom on Mom's
Yes,
Day.
you do.
But on Father's Day, dads just, we drove by the golf course this morning on my way in here.
I bet it was packed.
Oh, yeah. So many dads and sons out there, dads and daughters out there, playing golf. I'm like, we just want to get out and hang out with our kids. Or
smoking cigars from Final Third.
There's a lot of them out there, yes.
Yeah.
They were, yeah.
Because you can buy them there now.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
If you go to the Fall Creek Golf Club.
Really?
Yep. You can buy Final Third cigars.
Yep, we got a humidor over there now. So.
Absolutely.
So they seem to be selling a lot. They have been selling a lot of the sweet tip. So if you guys are golfing out there, smoke some of the other cigars for them too, so they don't have all the other ones. Yeah, yeah.
And maybe at some point out at the casino, we get some cigars. Well, that I know has been talked about.
Working on it. Oh, by the way,
racing starts on Tuesday night, the 25th.
Yes. So we'll be out there on the 25th. We're gonna get there a little early and probably have some dinner with Gene, and then we're gonna sit there and do some gambling.
Shout out to Gene.
Yeah, shout out to Gene.
Yep.
So yeah, we're excited to get over there.
Gene is Craig's boss.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. My cousin Craig works as the director of facilities out there.
Forgetting that.
Craig Deshong.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. I know.
Yeah.
I remember now.
Yeah. So, definitely going to be out there on Tuesday night.
Yeah. So this is like the sulky racing or the thoroughbred.
This is the
or is there
the cart racing.
Yeah, whatever they call that. Yeah.
Sulky, isn't it?
I have no idea. You might know more than I do on that. Oh, Lisa saw my skin when she came in. She wants to check on the 50 Shades of Scotty D.
Yeah.
Go ahead here. You can have, this is a thing we do, Dad. Because my skin is,
your son gets darker than heck, right?
Yeah. So Lisa goes into, Lowe's or whatever and says, hey, do you have like an old swatch thing? And, she comes in and is carrying it. And we're like, well, you're going to change the paint? And she's like, no, this is for you, pointing right at me. And I'm like, you're going to measure the color of my skin, aren't you? Yes, I am.
All right, Lisa, what is it?
I think I'm less red nowadays. I'm a little more brown.
Yeah, you look like you darkened up
does
some.
She put that sticky note?
She records it to see how I'm changing all the time.
Yeah.
It's beginning of May because, get into May and I'm out at the track all the time. So that's when my sun really starts setting in.
Is it the top one?
But even January, she's never going to go to the white section. Even in January.
That's for darn sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'm still too red. Okay. Well, I did, shed a little bit of skin this past week, so that probably made it go back a little bit. I'm surprised at how much red it has in it, but whatever.
Well, that's what
mine's more yellow.
Yeah, you do end up. See, this is, you can tell. This is definitely my dad. There's no question here, right?
Yep.
Somebody told me the other day, he said, boy, you've really got a great tan. I says, yeah, but you look at my butt, it's the same color as yours.
Exactly. Yes. Well, that's what I was doing because we'll go out, we'll get up in the mornings and just go sit out on the deck and just get some sun. And it's honestly more to wake up than anything else. I've been sitting on the same side for a long time because I'm nice and dark right through here, but by here around I'm white. It's like I probably should turn around every once in a while.
Well, it helps, but unless you're just out in it all the time, you can get tan, but you're not going to get like him.
No,
the track. I noticed when he comes home from the track, he was darker when he came home from the track than he is now.
He was.
Yeah. I haven't been outside much the last couple weeks, so.
Yeah.
But we're coming up, got Independence Day party coming up, so I'll be outside all day for that. And pool now is, I'm ready to come over to the pool because this next week it's supposed to be brutal.
Yeah, it is.
Pushing 100.
Yeah.
It's going to be hot. You be safe out there because I know we got a lot of Midwest listeners and it's going to be dangerous.
Yeah.
So
keep drinking bourbon, but drink a lot of water with it.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yes. Definitely keep drinking bourbon. Yeah, and you can take your cigar in the pool. It's okay. As long as it doesn't get wet, you're fine.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So what else we got to talk about
Well, we
today?
got some interesting news. We haven't talked about food yet.
Okay.
This is always a thing, Dad, where it's how long does it take to get to food, and we're 45 minutes in, so this is like the longest. I think this might be a record.
It might be.
The longest we've ever gone without talking about food early in the podcast.
Well, you got a newbie asking questions.
That's true.
That's good.
You're repeating things.
All right, we'll
you've
blame
been
you.
talking
We'll
about
blame
for
you.
years.
Totally
okay?
your fault. Totally your fault.
Yeah, we'll blame you.
So this week in food, and thank you to Mike for putting the notes together. He always does a bang up job. He couldn't be here because he's doing his regular job. He's running the video for the Fever today.
Yeah.
And boy, we could talk about that for a little bit because, wow, that's
Some of that's pretty ugly.
It is pretty ugly.
It is, yeah.
But Joey Chestnut, you guys hear about this? Dad, you know who Joey Chestnut is?
I've heard the name.
He's the
no.
food guy, the eater, like the competition eating guy. He's like 100 hot
yeah,
dogs.
the hot dog guy.
Yeah,
I
the
just
hot dog
read
guy.
about that, and he signed a contract with another company.
A vegan company.
Yeah, and so he couldn't participate in
Yep.
the.
He got cut out of the Nathan's hot dog eating contest.
Yeah,
And so now Netflix is doing a specific vegan eating contest to compete live against the Nathan's hot dog eating contest.
this kind of sounds wrong to me, you know.
It
You
sounds
and me
very
both.
weird.
That's terrible. I'm
I'm trying to figure out which one's going to tear up which person's gut the most.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I mean, there's
he's
some.
said that it never has bothered him. Like eating anything. I'm kind of wondering if he gets into this vegan thing, if he doesn't go, well, that was a bad idea.
Well, it kind of depends because some of those vegan like burgers and hot dogs and stuff are made with just vegetables, and they're fine. There's nothing wrong with those. Some of them they make them with a bunch of soy and crap in there. It's like that's just not good for your body.
They
You
are
say
taking my food's food.
I know.
What do they have to put in it though to make it taste like a hot dog or a hamburger or whatever? I mean,
These are the same people that are like organic, all natural, except when it comes to eating meat. Then we want to go all chemicals.
Yeah.
You know?
yeah.
Like, let's biologically engineer some meat and grow it in a lab. That'd be the best.
I mean, if
humane
you're
way to do
vegan,
it.
why do you want something that tastes like meat anyway?
Right.
You
That's
know, I mean,
my thought too.
That's kind
Yeah.
of goes against the whole principle of the thing.
I don't get it, but
Yeah.
to each their own. However
Yeah.
they want to do it, that's fine.
And some people might be sensitive to certain, red meats or whatever too. That they may like it, but they can't eat it. So
That's
I
true.
get there's a
Yeah.
reason for it,
Yeah.
but
I don't know anybody that has a meat allergy.
I
No.
don't
Really.
know.
Have
of
you ever
anybody.
heard of that? Maybe a hot dog allergy. I could. See
Well,
that,
I mean, they
but
put lips and assholes in those things. So,
I know.
yeah. So that's kind of the food news that surprised the hell out of me. Just couldn't believe that.
that is kind of funny.
On the bourbon front,
Yeah. I saw that.
Angel's Envy, they're offering their first ever non-finished bourbon. So for those that know Angel's Envy, Louisville based, right?
Yes.
Yep. So they got their distillery right there downtown Louisville. A lot of people. And Dad, if there was ever going to be something that you'd try that would be more of like the straight kind of whiskey thing, probably the Angel's Envy Rye.
Yeah.
It tends to be a really good starter drink. And a lot of people really, really like it, even if it's a couple cubes, because I think it's only 90 proof, right?
I think it's 90. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they
Somewhere
go to
in there.
100.
Yeah.
But it is a rye whiskey, but to me, it comes across as too much peanut butter, but a lot of people really, really love it. That's all been sourced, right? Angel's Envy, or is that all their own stuff?
No, it's their own
It's
stuff.
their own stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've never heard of it being sourced.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember. They've been around for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
so it would likely be their own stuff.
Yeah, it's it's very cinnamony and the rye spice and everything else, but
Yep,
like
lots
you
of
said,
caramel.
the sweetness, the caramel kind of pops together and makes it feel like peanut butter a little bit.
It's peanut butter to me, so not my favorite, but it is for some other people.
Yeah, yeah.
It's going to be they call it cast strength bottled and bond.
Which that didn't make sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't make any sense to me at all, because cast strength is usually whatever it comes out of the barrel. Like you take it out of the barrel and you fill bottles, and that's whatever its proof is.
So, do they normally filter it or do something? Or
Yeah, I mean, they'll run it through just like a fine mesh filter to make sure that there's no particulates in it. But other than that, if you're not Jack Daniels does a charcoal filter on theirs. But most of the rest, it's just make sure you don't have any floaters.
And so the alcohol content can vary depending on the barrel.
Completely. Yeah. So when
and
you have
on the entry point of the alcohol going in too.
Yep.
You can go in at certain levels for different things. Like bourbon, I think it has to go in the barrel no more than 125 proof.
I think we talked about this 135. It was somewhere around there, 125,
I used to
135.
know this stuff, and I can't remember it now. But
yeah, I thought it was 165, and it was actually a lot lower than that.
And so, if they want a particular proof, do they
water it down?
They water it down.
That's it.
Or add alcohol?
No, they don't add alcohol ever. Yep. To be bourbon, really, you have to have at least the core product still be the core product.
And it can only be proofed down with just water.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can proof it down.
So depending on how it ages, it can go up in proof. Some barrels, depending on where they're located and the types of barrels and the char amounts and things like that, all create variations on how much proof you could potentially get out of it. You have like George T. Stagg, for instance, that usually runs between 138 and 139 proof, but you wouldn't know it. You drink it, you taste it, and it's wonderful. Now, you probably would because you're not much of a whiskey drinker, but it still wouldn't taste like fire. Right. And you get some of those high proofs that they don't have the age or the maturity to them. And the ethanol really heats you up a lot. So it's kind of interesting. You have like 130 to 135. You could have 5 or 6 different whiskeys and they're all going to have a different flavor and a different amount of ethanol feel to them. Some being very aggressive, some being almost non-existent. Mm-hmm. And one of our things that we typically do is when we're tasting things that we don't know what it is or we don't look at the bottle, we just try to guess what the proof is. And we're usually within 5 points.
Yeah, usually pretty close.
Yeah, we're pretty good at it now.
Some of them can sneak up on us.
I don't think you understand just how much I drink.
Nope. Well, something else Mike had put on here is we have a potentially, which actually it's going to happen, a big sponsorship coming.
Oh, yeah. Potential, huh?
And we're not going to tell anybody what it is yet.
Oh. So what we do know is that when it gets announced, Rob will just casually mention it in conversation rather than making a big deal about it.
Yeah. No, and I will say Mike's been working on this one for quite a while, and it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a couple of them potentially coming up. This one will probably be the first one, and it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to partner up with this large group of people that are not far from us that are awesome, and we'll just leave it at that. How about that?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so stay tuned. July announcement on a sponsorship.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, something else. Sports.
Yeah.
Edmonton Oilers crushed.
I know. I saw that
last night.
I didn't watch it. I felt terrible. I don't know if I ate something bad yesterday, but I went to bed at like 9 o'clock, so I didn't make it out here to watch. But
no, I will take credit for that.
Oh, because you bet.
I bet on Florida.
Yeah. So it's
my fault.
Your fault.
Yeah.
But yeah, 8 goals to 1 after not scoring any more than like 3 goals in the first 3 games total.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, we're big hockey fans here. So it's the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. And it is the northernmost team in the NHL, the Edmonton Oilers, which is north of Winnipeg, and the Florida Panthers, which are in Miami.
Probably the southernmost.
It is the southernmost team. Yep.
2,500 miles between the teams, and they have to travel back and forth for the playoffs. It's like, man.
That's a long trip.
There's got to be some jet lag.
Even on a chartered plane, it's still a long trip to get from Edmonton down to Miami.
Now, it's a major uphill battle. It's 3-1. So there's not a good chance that Edmonton's going to come back. But, man, they might have put a little fear in Florida on that one.
That's a statement game right there. 8 goals to 1.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
And they stopped trying to score at the end. I was hoping for one more because I would have won $30 on that if they'd have scored 10 goals in the whole game.
Yep. In other hockey news,
the fact that he actually made that bet, 10 goals. I mean,
I know,
that's
right?
Highly unusual to get 10 goals.
Oh, it'd be crazy. Yeah, you don't see 10 goals in hockey games combined very often, let alone one team almost getting there. I mean, that's
Well, 10 goals total is what I bet.
Is it
during the game? Because they needed to score 3 in the third period to get there, and they only scored 2. So I was like, it's fine.
Ever the optimist, right?
Always. Oh, that's
we look for value. That's it. Give me big return.
Well, and I'm a huge Avalanche fan, and Avalanche are known for coming back in games when they're down big.
They were down like 4-0 or something, and you bet them to win that in the third period.
And won like $300 on a $10 bet. It's like, this works. So I always do the stupid gambling like that. But
that's great.
Sometimes you lose 10 and you win 1, and that 1 makes up for 10 plus.
Yep.
It's all good.
That's why you do the
break even, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And you're having fun.
That's right.
Yeah, that's all it's about.
Yep. So, Also in hockey news, aren't we having one of the Fuel players on the podcast, hopefully?
Yeah, I believe next Sunday, Colin Bilec's coming out to hang out with us. Yeah, next Sunday. That's the 23rd?
That sounds about right. Something like that.
Yeah. He's coming out, and it should be next Sunday. I'm going to text him this week to make sure everything's still good. But
yep, so Colin Bilek from the Indy Fuel coming out, joining us on the podcast. That'll be a lot of fun to have.
That will be fun. He's coming into town. He lives in Michigan, and he's coming into town to do a big camp for kids in Fishers.
Yeah.
He said he wanted to do one this year regardless, and he lives in Michigan. He said, you can't shake a stick and not find a hockey program for kids up there, but there's not much up down here. So he decided to come down here, and the new stadium's going to be in Fishers. So he decided to do it right there, and he'll do great. He's going to have, I think, 4 or 5 of his players. They're going to help him coach it.
That's awesome.
It's just going to be a great time for kids to get out and learn the game of hockey.
If it's not already sold out, make sure and take a look and find a way to get involved. I'm sure there's lots of stuff out there.
I'm sure if you go on social media and look up Colin Bilek, it's Bilek. Look him up. You probably find stuff on his page, I'm sure.
Yeah. And he's his story, I can't wait to talk about it, because he's actually in the military.
Yes.
Oh, still is?
So he actually he will be an officer.
Yep.
And what it was is there was a program that was implemented by the government that allowed, if you were a professional athlete, you could delay entering. So unlike, I think of David Robinson, right, the basketball player for the Spurs back in the day, he was actually went through school and was an officer, and then he had to do his time, and then he went to the NBA. Rather than what they do now, which is because you only have so many years to make money as a professional athlete, they now allow you to delay that service, and then they'll have you come in and serve after the fact. So it'll be fun to talk to Colin about that and kind of what his backstory is and what all led to that. So it should be a pretty good show, I think.
I can't wait to talk about the fight that the Fuel put out. I don't know if you saw that little short of him.
Oh yeah,
they're out there fighting, and he takes the guy to the ice, and instead of being done with him and punching him, he picks him up and keeps slamming him on the ice. I'm like, what happened to get you to that point, buddy?
Must have been really, really upset.
Oh yeah, I'm looking for. That's why we've been joking around here, and I'm not 100% sure this date's exactly right, but I think we're 102 days till hockey season starts again.
Perfect.
At least NHL regular season.
The only problem I have is that the Fuel won't be starting in November at home.
6 games on the road, isn't it?
Oh, I think it's like it was like 10 of their first 12.
Oh, that stinks.
Yeah, are on the road. So
on the other hand, they're going to be home a lot later.
They will be.
Yes, that could really help.
Yeah,
and a brand new facility. So
yeah,
that's going to be fun.
That's
and
nice.
they've all kept saying that the stadium is ahead of schedule. They said they're a few weeks ahead of schedule. I know it's just like a big shell of a building being an arena, but man, it seems like they got a lot of work still to do to get to October.
You got me, man. I don't know how any of that stuff works.
Now we drove by there. Lisa and I drove by there, I think last week, and they've done a lot of work. I mean, that place is coming up fast, and it's going to be beautiful. It's way bigger than I expected it to be.
It did not look big when it was just steel. You're thinking, how's that going to hold 8,000 people?
It's huge.
Being in the building business, it's been very positive weather-wise.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't lost a whole lot of time on site work and that kind of thing, which, I mean, that's what the weather really slows down. Of course, the guys don't want to be up on the steel when it's really wet either. So
Right.
So we've had great building weather. So, I can see why they'd be ahead of schedule.
And I got to figure once they kind of get the shell done, I mean, the interior, you're talking about a sports facility, right? So
you put seats in, everything's open air.
Exactly. Yeah.
Drop in your jumbotrons and all that stuff, and
You got to get it dried in. So you got to get a roof on it, and then you can do the
HVAC, electric.
They'll pour the concrete down, and I'm sure then they'll have the however they set up the ice, and probably the floor that'll roll out or whatever.
Did you see how they did that? There's pictures on social media about the floor, and it's just, I mean, it's got to be miles of pipe that goes through.
The refrigerant pipe.
Yeah, to be able to cool the floor to get it down to where it will freeze.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't seen the plans on this or not, but when we were talking to the girls down at the Fuel, they were talking about having an electronic pull-out floor to go over the ice whenever they have like concerts or
Really?
stuff like that. I wonder if that actually happened or if they're gonna do like they did down at the fairgrounds, which is a lot of work.
That's what I would guess they would go the electronic.
They have to because they're talking about by year 5 they're gonna have 260 to 280 events in there per year.
And you've got ice in there half the year.
Yeah, and that's a lot of work to go back and forth.
Do they actually let it thaw out?
No.
So
it goes over the top.
I know, but you said they'd have ice half the year.
Yes, they will.
I'm assuming they keep it frozen the whole time?
No. So once the season is over, they will thaw the ice and it'll just be the concrete.
Yeah.
Yep. So they don't have to run the refrigeration.
They just run that floor out over it. And
yeah.
Pipe underneath and have events.
Well, all the pipe is in concrete and it chills the concrete down.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. The actual concrete itself goes sub-freezing.
So they got 4 or 5 inches of styrofoam underneath the thing and
and
concrete on top of that.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
I know, right? And they have to be able to support a lot of weight on that concrete because they do concerts and stuff in there. So you're talking about putting a lot of staging and a lot of lights and
knowing how to build that kind of stuff just kind of makes me drool.
Yeah.
I like to build stuff, you know. I just I would have really enjoyed something like that.
Would you want to be in charge of a project that large?
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
Except one person is never in charge.
Never in charge. Right.
They got. In fact, Craig, he was with Pepper Construction.
Okay.
And he had worked his way up to where he was in charge of like, I don't know, $15 or $20 million projects, but he had people underneath him that pretty much he was just responsible for 8 or 10 people.
Yeah.
And then of course at the end of the day, the buck stopped with him.
Gotcha.
But he didn't have to go do all the inspections and everything.
Most everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. He's the one that makes sure that it all gets done and fixes the issues and hits the things that are stopping the timing. And
I used to. I've seen those blueprints before, and they were like, 2 or 3 inches thick because there were so many pages to them. I suspect it's all electronic now.
It's all on iPad. Yeah. I remember Craig talking about it, and he could go in, even like where all the electrical and everything went, you just would get a 3D, and you could just move like through it on your iPad and see exactly where you're supposed to be running everything. All your HVAC, all your electrical, all your plumbing. Yeah.
Which would be so much easier. I mean, I've built commercial buildings that had several pages, and, you get a little circle and it says A3 on it. And, you got to turn to page A3 to see a detail on that. And on something like that, I can only imagine how many details there are.
Oh,
Just hundreds and hundreds.
So, Dad, as you smoke down that cigar, you can remove the paper to be able to continue smoking. You don't have to stop at the paper. If you decide you're done, you're fine.
Well, I think I'm done.
All right.
Okay, then you're done. You can just lay it in there.
In the ashtray and not worry about it. Yep, you're good to go.
Yep. That's the proper way to be able to.
Next year, the year after, I can have another one.
There you go. All right.
Well, maybe we need to make this an annual Father's Day thing. So
hey, that could absolutely work. You get your one cigar a year.
Yeah, there you go. I can do that.
So live update, even though this is not a live show. The Fever are up 47-43 on the Sky at halftime. So
there we go. So, okay.
Come on, Mike. Keep it going, baby.
Good, right?
No, both teams have 4 wins on the season.
Okay, so they both suck.
They're both not real good.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second.
The Fever are coming. I mean, they're playing better. They're coming around a little bit. I will say one thing. I am definitely in the camp that I think Caitlin Clark is great for the game. I don't care if she was not in Indiana or not. I think she's great for the game.
Yes.
I do feel like she got snubbed for the Olympics. Honestly, even if she's not the player for the Olympic team, she's going to draw the crowd and she's who people want to watch.
Yeah.
There's a reason why every time the Fever go anywhere, they have to go to a bigger arena because they're coming to see her.
Yeah.
Yes, they're coming to see the other girls too, and they're all stepping their game up big time right now.
Well, they should all. That's a great opportunity.
It's a great opportunity.
And I don't mind some of the, some of the banter and kind of trash talk that's going on.
It's going to make her tougher.
I think it's not only going to make her tougher, but it helps the game.
Yeah.
Right. It really does. People like to see that. I mean,
a little chaos.
Like when somebody crashes somebody else on the racetrack in any series, I don't care. You can go to Anderson Speedway here, like quarter mile, right? And you go out and you watch the Thunder cars, which are pretty much like the shittiest cars on the planet. They barely haven't run an engine. They're out there trying to race. And some guy runs the other guy off into the wall. They get into a fight. not kind of a fight. They get into a fist fight.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes if both of them crash, I've seen a guy go pull the other guy out of the car just to beat the hell out of him, right? And that does get people interested. You know, I'm glad to see that she is not taking it personally.
No,
She's saying this is part of the game. I'm a rookie. I'm still learning. She's saying all the right things, and everybody is really coming down on her. I don't know if you've seen it, Dad.
Oh, I have, and I've
Yeah.
been really impressed because it's like, yeah, but we beat your ass. I mean, that's the way she is.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead, be mad at me, but you know, we won.
Yeah.
well, and I think they were like 1-8, 1-9, and now they're 4-10. So
Yeah.
they're starting to win a few games. I mean, obviously they're not a playoff contender. They're not even
Well, they're
close to that.
young. I mean, she was a number one pick. They had the previous number one pick, so
Yeah.
they've got young players.
And last year's
And you're
number
a
one
target.
pick was the rookie of the year last year.
Yep.
Now Caitlin's more than likely, and there's no way in the world she's not going to be rookie of the year this year. I don't think, unless she gets injured.
The
They
other
got-
the other girl that's in contention is doing really
She's
well.
doing
I
well,
can't
but
remember her
she's-
name, but
but she's not what Caitlin's doing.
I would agree. Caitlin will continue to come on strong and probably finish out the
And
season.
honestly, if they snub her on that,
oh man,
talk about
she'll
being
be
pissed
just-
off year two.
I kind of feel like she has some of that Michael Jordan. You know, like I didn't
kinda
get
does.
it. Why didn't I get on the varsity team as a sophomore when I was in high school?
Yeah.
Right? Or why he got cut? I think is what
He
it
did.
was.
He got cut.
Yeah, he got cut like his freshman or sophomore year from the high school.
I think it's because he
basketball
was
team.
too small.
Yeah, and then he grew like 12 or 13 inches. I mean,
Yeah.
shoot, he ended at 6'6".
Well, regardless, she's good for the whole league.
She is.
I mean, she's
Mhm.
really good for Indy, and really starting to raise the level of play from all the people that play there. But
Yeah,
Well, and
but she's good for the whole league. I mean, she's
I agree.
just really brought that people have. I mean, really, when was the last time you gave the WNBA a minute's worth of thought
exactly.
before this year?
now you walk
And-
into the bars and people are like, "Could you put on the WNBA game?"
Yeah,
Even if
yeah,
it's
they are.
not the Fever,
Yeah.
they're paying attention.
Yes, they are.
Well, if you saw, I don't know if you noticed this year or not, but the women's and men's March Madness, the women's tournament outshined the men's by a big margin of viewership,
That's huge.
and it's like that's never been done. That's not even been close. It's never even been close to half.
And, it was
this
probably
year they
because
out-
of her, right?
It was.
Yeah.
They wanted to
Oh,
see her
yeah.
do something.
I mean, I tuned in. I watched some of
Oh,
those
yeah.
games.
It's
Oh, yeah.
amazing what one person can do for a sport, isn't it?
it is. And-
Never discount the capability of an individual.
Right.
I mean, look, we're all in this together. There's no question. But you still see individuals that go out there and do really great things. And it always drives me nuts when people are like, the individual doesn't count. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
All you got to
yeah.
do, you can look in sports, you can look in business, you can just look in people's lives where there's somebody that steps up and does the right thing. That's an individual doing it.
Yeah. Which means go vote this year.
That's
You
true.
know?
Seriously.
Yeah.
Every individual, go vote.
Yeah.
Pick somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, pick somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like, everything I've seen so far out of Caitlin, like you were saying, she's saying the right things in interviews, but it seems like she's also just genuinely a decent human being.
Yeah.
And it's like they need that. You need that in sports.
She's a
I mean,
Midwesterner.
exactly. I mean, come on. We're awesome.
We are awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we can agree on
Yeah.
that.
Even if we're flyover country.
Yeah.
You're still awesome.
Yeah. Yes. Screw the West Coast.
That's right.
Yeah, definitely. I don't
Yeah, so
ever
that-
want to go to California ever again. I'm just saying.
Not a fan.
No.
And for those of you who live out there, sorry. I mean, but you totally agree with us because, you're paying all the taxes.
Right.
You're paying $3 million for a home that would cost you $200,000 in Indiana.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't know. Is there any $200,000 homes left?
I don't know.
Not many.
It's really
Not
tough
many. That's
right
a small.
now.
That's tough.
I mean,
right there.
I hope they moderate some, but based on 50 years of history, once they go up, they're generally up to stay.
Yeah.
And
Well, it
wages
really
will
took
follow.
it took us really from about what was it, 08 to 2-3 years ago till they really started jumping. And then once they jump, they just jump. And it's like everyone was saying, they just kind of caught up to where they should have been, but it did go a little further than where it
Wait,
should have been.
You're on the verge of getting me talking political, and I don't think I'm going to go there.
Yeah, that's all good.
Yeah.
No, we totally understand that, but yeah.
Yeah. It just is what it is.
It is
And
what it is.
Yeah.
But-
I don't know. So I know tomorrow we're recording for next week's show,
Yes.
and we are going to Metazoa,
Yeah.
which
yeah.
is a brewery here in Indianapolis. I know of them not just from their beer, but something that they're very passionate about, which is animals. And Mike both are our producer, who is down at the Fever game. Him and his wife, Jen, are big-time animal lovers, specifically dogs. They work a lot with fostering blue healers. I don't know that it's just blues, but I don't know if there's multiple types of healers.
All healers. Yeah, healers, I believe. Yeah.
And it was interesting to find out Metazoa, and we'll talk more about it. You'll hear about this on next week's show. They are completely dedicated to animals and have donated 5% of their profits to animal and wildlife organizations since the day that they open. And anytime you go in there, there's always animals.
Yeah.
Like, you can take your dogs in. It's no problem. Leash them, obviously, do all the right things, taking care of your animals. But super pet friendly in the tap room. You can take them inside,
outside,
sit there, have a beer, whatever. They have a dog park there. And then there's always pop-up vendors and food trucks and things like that. So that's going to be a fun show.
It will be fun,
They do have like a mug club. And I know Mike and Jen have taken Spencer Lee's there and sold their dog treats and
leashes and collars and all that.
And congratulations to them. They went to an event yesterday and they basically sold out of everything. So they've been seeing a lot of good stuff out there from Spencer Lee's, and the Metazoa show should be a lot of fun. I guess their motto is drink beer, help animals.
Yep.
And I
can't go wrong with that.
No, you can't. I mean, I like beer. I like animals. I want to drink one and help the other. So that's perfect.
Yeah. Just make sure you keep them in the right order.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to drink the animals, but not those animals, but I do eat animals. There's no question. I'm not going to sign up for a sponsorship with a vegan hot dog company. I'm just saying it's not going to happen. Even if they offered it, I'm sorry. I'd probably be out on that one.
But if you are a vegan hot dog company and have $100,000 you'd like to sponsor the show, you're on, buddy.
Contact Rob Boylan at Final Third
Well, at least listen to you.
We'll take your money. We'll eat your hot dogs on the show for that. Oh, yeah, Scott.
I would take one for the team.
Yes,
you ate a dog biscuit on the show.
I did.
So how did that taste?
It was dry, but it honestly wasn't bad. It's just chicken. It was freeze-dried chicken.
Yep. Cooked and freeze-dried.
Yeah.
That was a Spencer Lee's dog treat.
Yeah.
We were over at Moondrops a couple weeks ago, and kudos to Moondrops because that was a great event.
That was a great event.
That was their first mash bash, and they had a whole bunch of like breweries out there and food vendors, and we did a live show, and it was.
They had some other distilleries there too.
Oh yeah. They just, again, the whole distilling and cigar communities, again, not to be political or anything, but sometimes they get a negative rap on them, right?
Yeah.
And you're familiar with this because tanning can get a negative rap on it.
We've had that.
Yep. And for those of you that don't know about that, definitely look into tanning for real and find out, what's real and what's not, because you got to be cautious with anything.
Yeah.
Follow the money.
Yeah, that's a good one. But these are industries that support each other. They always do. They have communities associated with them, and it's the whole rising water, right?
Yeah.
All boats rise. I forget what the exact saying is.
Yeah,
but
rising
the
tides
tide.
raise all ships.
there you go.
Yep.
There you go.
But I've noticed a lot of distilleries in Indiana.
Oh yeah.
And it's really, I've read an article, I think it was in Farm World. Yes, I read Farm World, even though I'm not a farmer. And
Grew up on a farm. So.
They were talking about people growing corn specifically for a lot of these distilleries.
Yeah.
And it's very good for the farmer. I mean, it's been a really nice avenue for them to raise the revenue a little bit.
Well, and that's a great point too, because we just brought in Whiskey Acres, which is out of DeKalb, Illinois, west of Chicago, and they have the whole farm on. I mean, they have their own farm. They do the distilling. They do it all right there. And again, it's local farmers that decided to use their crops to make something special for people. So we will be doing a show here soon, tasting through the Whiskey Acres line that we got here at the shop. If you want to come in and try it before then, we've got the Bottle and Bond Bourbon, Bottle and Bond Rye. We got the cask finish series. It's a maple finished bourbon at about 116 proof. All three are delicious.
And thanks to Indiana Small Batch for getting them into the state of Indiana.
Yes, absolutely.
It always takes a distributor to get somebody into a state. And so really happy with the work that they did and going up and meeting with Whiskey Acres and getting that deal in place so that we could all enjoy their whiskey, because it's great stuff.
If you're a cigar bar or a bar in general, or just a restaurant that serves liquor and stuff, if you don't know who to contact with Indiana Small Batch, reach out to us. I can get you in touch. This is definitely a brand I think we need to get behind. They're great people, first of all. I mean, it's kind of reminds me of like a Starlight kind of thing where they're good people making great products and they're doing it all. And that's the kind of people we want to get behind. So yeah, definitely reach out to us on that.
Yeah, no question. I love that whole farm to bottle. I know that there's been a couple different terminologies that people use for it. But
seed to glass.
Seed to glass.
Yep.
I remember the first one that I ever heard of was Frey Ranch out in, what are they, in Utah, I think? Somewhere like that.
Utah or Montana or something like
Idaho,
that,
they're
out
somewhere
there,
up there. And they've got 1,000-acre farm. And all of their grain that they use in their whiskeys, they farm it, bring it in, they send it out to malt.
Almost,
right, yeah.
Almost
if you're going to do barley, which I don't
remember
if they have barley or not in there.
They might use enzymes. I'm not sure.
I think they actually do use barley because I'm pretty sure they have a 4-grain, so that would definitely have barley in it. They'll send the barley out to get malted, which is really expensive.
Or they'll just buy malted barley already
if they need to, rather than their own. Because doesn't Whiskey Acres they grow their own?
They grow their own, but then the issue with that for them is they have to send it to get it malted. And there's no malter around them, so they're sending it to Iowa or to Lebanon, Indiana.
Yeah.
And they have to send it there, ship it back, and by the time they get it back, it costs them about 10 times what it would be just to buy the malted barley from somebody. So they like the idea of everything they put in their product is theirs, but at some point you're like, okay, this cost is absolutely stupid for malt for 1% or 2% of malted barley.
Yeah.
So a lot of them just end up buying it, but I don't know about Frey Ranch for sure.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And they might have a malter out there that we don't, because that's so far away from us.
And we do want to get out there to what is the malter over there in Lebanon? I always forget their name. Sugar Creek or something.
I think that's it.
Sugar Creek.
Something like
exactly.
that.
What do they do?
So the malting process. This happens with barley, and it's used a lot for beer, but also a little bit in whiskey. It's used a lot in Scotch.
Yes.
So single
and
malt
Irish.
Scotches and Irish whiskeys typically come from barley, not from corn. That's the differentiator from bourbon versus like a Scotch whiskey, is corn at being 55% or more in bourbon versus barley. And to malt barley, you want to get the sugars because the sugar is what gets turned into alcohol by yeast. So to get the maximum amount of sugar, you actually put all the barley out on a floor and you spray it with water. And then you heat the room up and it causes it to germinate. And as soon as it germinates, then you dry it like aggressively to stop it from growing. You kill it. And that point, when it just pops open and just starts to germinate, is when you get the maximum amount of sugar in that grain.
Who figured this out?
I mean, so it was actually alchemists.
That's actually a great thought.
Yeah, so it was alchemists. We found out about this from
Alan Bishop.
Alan talked about it, but we also did the tasting that we did over at Will's with oh, for goodness sake.
Hood Sommelier.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, he talked about it, and it was the water of life.
Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
Bagado, but
yes,
I can't pronounce his last name.
Originally, distilled spirits were called, and whiskey specifically, was called the water of life, and it was used as a medicine. So it was an alchemist that kind of figured out how to do all this to make medicines, and then over time, it switched from being medicine to being something enjoyable, right? That we all get together and have some drinks. But it was all built out of just doing medicinal stuff initially with alchemists forever ago. They actually discovered the fermentation process, which is you take a grain or a fruit and you add water to create a mash. In the case of like beer and whiskey, you're going to add heat to do that. In the case of fruits, you don't have to add heat. And you create a cereal, effectively. Like for distillers, they call it distiller's beer. It's also actually making beer. And when you pitch the yeast, you're cooking the grain to pull the sugars out and get it into the water. Then you pull the grain out. Then you add the yeast at a temperature that the yeast can survive and flourish. And it's actually a biological process, not a chemical process, because yeast are living things. And they go out and they eat the sugar, and the waste is carbon dioxide and alcohol. And so then for distilling, you take it and you take that alcohol, the mash that's now the distiller's beer, and you heat it up, and alcohol vaporizes at a lower temperature than water. So that's what happens is all the vapor comes up while all the water stays there, and that vapor is the alcohol, but it carries a bunch of other stuff.
Coils and stuff.
And the coils to condense it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you drip it out, and that's how you get the distilled product. And so that's, you know, you can have different grain mixes, you can have different types of yeast.
Mm-hmm.
This is like all like really good information to understand when you look at a bottle and it says, oh, this is 65% corn, 25% rye, 4 and 6% wheat and barley, right?
Yeah.
Now you understand it's these different grains that have then been created to make this whole mash, and then that mash gets fermented, and then it gets distilled, and then it gets put into a barrel. And you have a flavor that's the white dog that is can be very good. Some people don't like it. Some people it's very off-putting. It just depends on your palate. But then when you age it, it really tampers a lot of the more aggressive flavors down and blends them, and then adds a lot of flavor from the wood. And the wood is always charred in the case of bourbon. In other things, you may just have casks, just wood casks, right? So you might put sherry or you age wine, and then you take that same barrel and you can empty it of its wine or its sherry or mead or whatever, and then you can put whiskey in it, and it will impart flavors from what you previously aged in the wood as well as the wood itself. Yeah. And so we get finishes, we get all kinds of unique stuff.
And I would assume that's some of that stuff that the distiller's never going to tell you exactly what they do to get this
and that's the
flavor.
thing. Even if they did tell you exactly,
doesn't mean a thing.
Yeast. There's probably millions of strains of yeast. So every yeast strain is going to pull off different flavors, different kind of tannins and stuff out of some of that stuff. Everyone's going to be a little different. So
they'll tell you sometimes everything.
Sometimes they'll tell you the entire thing.
Every single thing.
But I will say the one thing I feel like most distilleries are pretty clear on is like Heaven Hill, for example. Heaven Hill had that big fire a few years ago, and their yeast strains that they've had for generations were stored in this one home that was close to the fire. They had to climb in the window to save those yeast strains, because if they lost those yeast strains, they lost Heaven Hill. Yeah. I mean, at least what they had. So those yeast strains sometimes is the gold that they keep forever, because corn and grain, all that stuff you can buy. Yeast strains you can't recreate if you have the special yeast strain. So,
but even then, we're still talking about a product that comes from things that are all natural.
Yep.
So Rob's point earlier about you can only fill a barrel with 125, 135 proof, whatever. The reason is because anything more than that, and you start to lose the grain elements, because there's phenols that will go with the alcohol, like oils, that they won't vaporize, but they'll attach themselves to the vapor particles, and they'll go up and then get condensed. And so you maintain flavor from the original grain. You're not just pulling like pure ethanol.
Right.
It's still got other stuff with it. And you're talking 170 to 172 degrees to be able to get your ethanol out versus 212 at sea level for water. But all that stuff, it's so variable, right? Well, that means that the phenols are coming from corn that was grown in a wet season or a dry season or different variants or whatever it may be, right? There's so many things. And that's why when you're dealing with a single barrel, you're getting a product that will never be repeated, because it is a single barrel. You're dumping a barrel, all of its contents, and bottling it as is. Then you have blended products. And most of what you would know for anything from Grand Marnier to Scotch to just a standard bottle of bourbon is going to be blended. And you have to rely on people and their palates. And so that's why these blenders, these master blenders, are so incredibly important, because if you blend and create a flavor profile, you have to figure out how to take 10, 20, 100, 500 different barrels and mix them in the right proportions to get that flavor that you want. That's why Jack Daniels has been Jack Daniels Old No. 7 for 100 plus years, right?
I don't know how long they've been around.
I don't know either.
So I guess your message to a health nut would be drink bourbon and whiskey. It's all natural.
Exactly.
Hey, this is vegan. You can eat this with your vegan hot dogs.
That's right. We'll do a pairing at some point. Vegan hot dogs and bourbon.
It's good for everyone.
Not. Good for everyone, except for the meat lover.
Well, like we said, I mean, it's the water of life, right?
It
is.
It is.
That's the idea. And
you said something earlier, and it's kind of funny, because I remember being involved with and being involved heavily in the church, and certain churches were very very nervous when people would talk about alchemy. And it's funny because if you talk to like Alan Bishop, he calls himself an alchemist. Alchemy is all alchemy is you're taking something and creating something else out of it. That's all alchemy is.
It's natural
literally
stuff
the
that
natural
you're just using
process.
to make other natural stuff.
And I think some people take it and think it's really weird and all this. No, it really isn't. It's really just a process. And distilling is one of it. Brewing beer, I mean, fermenting tobacco, all that stuff is a natural process to happen that someone had to figure out to make it actually work. Yep. That's all it is. So
I've got a book, and I've read just various sections of it. It's about 1,000, maybe 1,100 pages, and it's a big book. It's not like 1,000 pages in a little paperback. It's called Yeast.
Yeah.
You've seen it before?
I have.
Yeah. And it's amazing because its whole discussion is fermentation, and we don't realize, like corned beef, right? I mean, the pickling process is considered, when you do it over age, it's a fermentation process. Sauerkraut is fermented.
It's fermented, yeah.
That's it. It's just fermented cabbage. You're just letting nature take its course to create a chemical reaction or a biological reaction to modify the flavors of things. So kimchi and pickles and beer and wine and whiskey and, all of these things are natural everyday processes that take place to get these things. And you just don't realize how much of this goes on every day in your life.
Yeah.
Every single day. I mean, even just the breakdown of, compost.
Right.
I mean, that is that same kind of process. And
got an achy stomach.
Right.
You got stuff fermenting in there, dude.
You do.
Yep.
Oh, man, I wish I got this news story. I should have. Another person, a lady who didn't even drink. I loved this. She got diagnosed. She got pulled over and busted for a DUI without drinking. So there is a process that can happen, and it's very rare, but your stomach actually becomes effectively a brewery. So a yeast gets in there, and it's one that is resistant to the acids in your stomach.
Interesting.
And it will ferment anything that you put into your belly.
Huh.
And so it ferments, and like overnight, your food's sitting in your stomach, and it's enough to ferment and get little bits of alcohol, and all that combined, you end up walking around drunk all day.
That sounds pretty unpleasant in my stomach, I'll tell you.
It does me
I hope
too.
It doesn't happen.
Right. I mean, it's super rare. You hear about one story every 2 to 3 years where somebody gets this condition and they have a way to be able to fix it. But yeah, usually it happens where somebody gets busted for a DUI and they're like, look, I have not been drinking. I don't drink. Like, I don't drink anything. And then they have to go and they see the doctor. And of course the ticket goes away or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, the infraction.
Wow.
But yeah, it's a whole thing where you can actually have that process happen inside your body.
Wow. So I know you've done a lot of brewing and you're big into beer. And I used to be a lot more into beer when I could drink more beer, but I can't really drink it much now. A couple of the beers I always really, really enjoyed, and they were so unique and different, was like the old school Hefeweizens and the old school barley wines where they did the natural open fermentation, where literally they just
sours,
create the mash, and then let the natural yeast from the air go in there, and it starts fermenting. It's just all natural.
Lots of times in Europe they do that next to orchards.
Yes,
because the fruit naturally gets yeast on it, and that's where you see like the drunk moose story.
Sure,
right? Yeah. Drunk deer or whatever.
Yeah,
it's because the fruit is fermenting. Well, they'll do these open vat containers, and just let the yeast blow through the wind and come into their mash and ferment it out, and then they bottle it as beer. Calling all dog lovers, say hello to Spencer Lee's, offering freeze-dried pet treats, crafted with care and bursting with flavor. Spencer Lee's treats are the ultimate reward for your four-legged friend. Made from single ingredients and freeze-dried to perfection, these treats are packed with all the goodness your pup craves. Be sure to visit Spencer Lee's on Facebook or Instagram for updates and website information.
And I've seen that there's been some places that we've been that's done that open fermentation on alcohol as well, or on bourbon and stuff. And it's kind of cool to see it because it really, I've been to 2 or 3 different places that did that, and one of them, it was funny because it might have been Wood Hat. It might have been Wood Hat. They had almost a crust on top. And it was just because the fermentate or the yeast in their air came over there, just had a really aggressive yeast It just created a crust along with
it's a big foam, and then it just settles down into a crust.
And it was just kind of
CO2, right? It's all bubbling, and so it creates a big foam layer, and then that just crusts down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really great, really cool process.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of discussion. I think it's pretty well settled science now that there was questions that does yeast impact the flavor of a distilled product? And we found that, yes, it does. But there was a lot of science that went on 15, 20 years ago to kind of try and prove that that was the case, to your point on Heaven Hill.
Yeah.
And saving that yeast.
Yeah.
Because they consider that part of their flavor profile.
Yep.
But and in beer it does, because you're just fermenting, you're not distilling, right? Yeast makes all the difference. In wine, it makes a big difference.
That's what I tell people a lot of times when we talk about yeast is like, if you really want to see what yeast can do to something, go to breweries that are playing with different yeast strains.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, there's again thousands and thousands of yeast strains they're using. And I know Colt over at Pax Verum, he'll use different yeast strains for different beers and stuff like that. And it's kind of cool to see what those different esters come out of the flavor profile and all that stuff just from the yeast. And beer definitely has more of a wider range than what I would think spirits do, but still got to hit it.
The yeast doesn't carry through as much. I mean, look, you get a lot of the yeast to fall out of beer, so you can filter it, but one of the first things that they typically do is they chill it after it's done fermenting, and the yeast goes dormant. So you can actually collect it and pitch it again in the next batch. So now you have consistency. And like if you're a biologist or a chemist, you can get hired on at a brewery just to do analysis. I mean, there's yeast companies that sell specific yeast strains, and they have biologists working there to figure out how to make these things grow and not change.
Yeah.
Right? Because they can eventually change from one strain type to another and have different flavor profiles to them. So they have to be very careful about controlling that yeast growing process. But you see it go dormant, and you just get a big, thick, milky-looking cake at the bottom of your fermenter. And they use these huge conical fermenters, and they just open up, and it just comes out like sludge. Not super appetizing.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. And yeast doesn't smell real great.
No.
It's not like bread yeast. I mean, you can use bread yeast, but it doesn't. It's got the biscuits that grandma makes, the drop biscuits, and you put that yeast in a warm cup of water to get it to bloom. And if you put your nose down there and smell,
not real great.
No, it isn't real great. It's amazing that something that smells that terrible can impart such amazing flavors when you use it in the right process.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Anything else we want to talk about? There's got to be some other things we want to talk about. I mean, we got some things coming up, which we won't share much about that yet until it happens. So
yeah, it's going to be a good summer, I think.
We got a lot of great things coming up, and we're going to be making some trips. We definitely are going to try to get out to a couple different new cigar lounges and some other distilleries and stuff, and do. We got to
get out to that malter, man. I really want to make that trip. I want to see that process, because I think that would be really incredible.
I know Will would love to be a part of that too, because he's definitely interested in the whole malting process and learning that. Again, there's not that many malters around, so it'd be kind of cool to possibly see more of those pop up somewhere. But
now, have you ever seen them do the Scotch when they do the malting with the peat? Anybody? Have you ever seen like a video of it or anything?
When they're turning the grains? No, you're talking about
the actual peating. Malting. So they
go out. I know how they do the peat. Yes.
So they go out and they cut blocks
off of the big peat. Big peat bogs,
and then they basically set it on fire, which you can't get a flame out of it.
Well, in Indiana,
it smolders.
Indiana, you think of peat as the stuff you used to fish. The peat moss,
right? Exactly.
And the peat bogs in Scotland are. They could be 50, 100 feet deep.
Yeah.
And they'll just get, when they used to do it, just chainsaw down a big piece of it, and that's what they're using for their peat. And it's like, it just naturally grows there because
that's how that's how they dry their grain. They have a floor, and then it's the dirt underneath it, 10, 12 feet down, and they'll just put their peat down, and they'll set it on smolder, and they have all the cracks in the floor because it's just a wood floor. And all that smoke comes up, and it dries out the grain, but it also smokes it with the peat flavor.
Yeah.
And so that's how you get a peated Scotch.
Yeah.
Which is really, really popular for some people, and other people are like, this is the worst thing I've ever drank in my life.
I do like peated Scotch.
I like peated Scotch, but it is probably a little bit more acquired flavor.
someone yells burnt Band-Aids and the iodine, I'm like, I'm in.
That's the flavor profile. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Burnt Band-Aids and iodine. Yeah. I'm trying to think if we've got any other major events that are scheduled. Do you have a future cigar event coming up?
This Friday, we've got Jake Sanders from Crowned Heads coming in. We're going to be doing an event with him, hang out with him. If you haven't met Jake, get out here and meet him. He's a great guy.
Yep.
Doing a great thing with Crowned Heads. We've got several boxes of the blood medicine still left. If you're looking to get in on some of those before they're gone,
goes great with a Bloody Mary.
Goes great with the Bloody Mary. Goes great with coffee. I mean, it's just great. It's a great morning cigar. And honestly, it holds up any time of the day. But I think it's definitely that first of the day.
For those that like the more aggressive cigars, in the evening, this one's better early and midday.
Yeah, I agree. But
I could actually call it a lawnmower.
You could.
Cigar.
Yeah. Yep. And
that's a good one.
The ones that came in the boxes are Toros. If you ever had some of the event packages before, they were Robustos. So this is going to be a little bit longer smoke. But yeah, come out here for those. We've also got a bunch of other boxes. We got a lot of the Mil DS special releases over the last year or two. I've still got some of those. We'll have all those on special for the event. So it'll be a good time to stock up your humidor for the summer.
Absolutely. So I think we're probably ready to wrap it up.
Yep.
I hope everybody really has enjoyed their Father's Day. Yeah. I know that this was a special treat for me having you out, Dad. I really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
No, thank you for coming.
It's been a pleasure to be here.
That's great, man. I appreciate you coming.
Yep, and we'll probably end up sitting down here and watching a little bit of all this U.S. Open action. Yeah. I'm excited about that. I think that's about it, isn't it?
All right, yep, it is.
All right.
Well, guys, you can follow us on Instagram at Final Third Cigar.
You can follow me at Scotty D Smokes. Dad, I don't think you'd really do social media, so you don't have to worry about it.
Nope, can't follow me.
If you want to reach out to him and he'll tell
Exactly. You can find Midwest Remodeling and Bronze Bay both out there. Small businesses. Go out and support them. And until next week, cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.